Praise the Lord, everybody. Praise the Lord. We serve an awesome God, don't we? What has He done for you lately? Like what? Give me an example. Keep talking, keep talking. Come on, come on, come on, come on. All right. Are you in your right mind? All right, amen. Praise the Lord, everybody. This is the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Amen? Amen. This morning I'll be doing your scripture. Please stand for the reading of the word, please. Our word this morning is coming from James 1, verses 2 through 8. Amen? James 1, verses 2 through 8. You there, say amen. Okay? The word reads such. My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in faith, with no doubting. For he who doubts is like a wave of the driven sea, tossed by the wind. For let not that man suppose he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. I read to you James 1, verses 2 through 8. May the Lord have a blessing of the hearers, readers, and most importantly, the doers of his holy word. Amen? Amen. You may be seated. Now we have prayer by Deacon McIntyre.
Amen. You know, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Elijah Cummings once said that our children are our messengers to the future that we will never see. And didn't True Spirit Youth in the youth department send some message yesterday? Amen. Let us bow our heads in prayer and thank God for them. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you on this day. We say thank you. We thank you for the youth who turned out tomorrow. We thank you for the leadership of the youth department. We thank you, Father God, for the pastor and the first lady who provided leadership and word on that day. We thank you for the participation that took place. We thank you, Father God, for the Holy Spirit that moved through this church as it sought to do those things in this community and amongst our young people that are within your will. We know, Father God, that they have very many gang prevention and drug prevention programs, but the real true prevention for evil in this world is the blood of Jesus Christ and the power of the Holy Spirit. We thank you, Father God, for what happened yesterday. We lift up in prayer, Father God, our young people all over the world. We lift up in prayer and pray, Father God, for those children who are cages on the border of the United States of America. We lift up in prayer those children, especially those Christian Kurdish children that are facing bombs and gunfire and all forms of war that they had nothing to do with. We pray, Father God, for leadership of your universal church, that we may speak the word, Father God. And we may not only just have those who will preach the word and speak the word, but that all of us that are believers will live the word and do according to thy will. Thank you, Father God, for True Spirit Baptist Church. We thank you, Father God, for those who laid the foundation and for those who have carried on. We thank you, Father God, and pray that you'll bless each and every single member and family that's represented here on this day. Pray, Father God, for our sick and for our bedridden. We pray, Father God, for mental, physical, spiritual, financial, and emotional healing, blessing, protection, and health. Pray, Father God, that you'll help us that you will convict those who are present, who have not accepted the Lord Jesus Christ as their personal Lord and Savior and the pardon of their sins, bring them to this decision gently if you can, roughly if you must. We pray all these things in the holy name of thy Son, Jesus Christ, and for the sake of his blood that was spilled for us. Say amen.
I've got a feeling that everything's gonna be all right. Oh, I got a feeling that everything's gonna be all right. Yes, I got a feeling that everything's gonna be all right. Be all right, be all right, yes, be all right. Satan don't like it. Satan, he don't like it, but everything's gonna be all right. I know that Satan don't like it, but everything's gonna be all right. I know that Satan don't like it, but everything's gonna be alright. Be alright, be alright, yes, be alright. Well, the Holy Ghost, it done told me that everything's gonna be alright. I know the Holy Ghost done told me everything's gonna be alright. I know the Holy Ghost done told me that everything's gonna be alright. Be alright, be alright, alright. I got a feeling one more time. I've got a feeling that everything's gonna be alright. Yeah, I got a feeling things gonna be alright. Yeah, 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 I got a feeling things gonna be alright. Be alright, be alright, be alright.
Amen. How many got a
Praise
feeling
Lord,
everything's going to be all right?
Amen.
Don't fool me now. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor,
Amen.
everything is going to be all right. How many remember the day you went in the water? Oh, y'all done hung up on me already. Do you remember the day that you gave your hand to the Lord? They used to sing that old song. They said, take me to the water. Take me to the water. Yeah. We're so grateful to have one of our young people. I recall when I was talking with him, and he told me who God was to him and what he meant to him. And to hear a young man say that before he even got any knowledge of what we were about to do means that God must have showed him or told him something. And so what they used to say when I was coming up in the church, they say, oh, obedience to the great head of the church. And upon the confession of your faith, my brother, I baptize you in the name of the Father, and in the name of the Son, and in the name of the Holy Ghost. Come on, let's celebrate Jesus. Let's celebrate the Lord. Amen.
Well, I've already been to the water, and I've already been baptized, and I've already been converted, and I feel alright. Well, I've already been to the water. Yes, I've already been baptized, and I've been converted, and I feel alright. Oh yes, I've already been to the water, and I've already been baptized, and I've been converted, and I feel alright. Oh, alright, 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 feel alright, 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 feel alright, alright. Yes, I've already been to the water, and I've already been baptized, and I've been converted, and I feel alright. Hey, 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 alright. Feel alright. Feel alright. Alright, feel alright. I feel alright. Alright, 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 alright. Early this morning, I feel alright. Hey, hey, alright, 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 alright. Baptize me in a muddy water. Feel alright, 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 alright. Deacon stepped out with a pole in his hand. He walked on out in the muddy water. He said, right here is a good spot. Let's dip her in. He dipped me down in muddy water, but I came up as pure gold. I feel alright, 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 alright. Already been to the water, and I've already been baptized, and I've been converted, and I feel alright.
Hallelujah, hallelujah. Lord, we thank you on this morning. It is responsive reading. We're going to ask that you stand for a responsive reading. Obligations of a Christian, coming from Philippians, the first chapter, verses 12 through 18. I'll be the leader, and you as the congregation, and at the end we all come together. But I want you to know, brethren, that the things which happened to me have actually turned out for the furtherance of the gospel.
So that it has been evident to the whole palace guard and to all the rest that my chains are in Christ.
And most of the brethren in the Lord, having become confident by my chains, are much more bold to speak the word without fear.
Some indeed preach Christ even from envy and strife, and some also from goodwill.
The former preach Christ from selfish ambition, not sincerely, supposing to add affliction to my chains.
But the latter of love, knowing that I am appointed for the defense of the gospel.
Oh,
What then? Only that in every way, whether in pretense or in truth, Christ is preached, and in this I rejoice. Yes, and I will rejoice.
thank you. You may be seated.
so much higher. I just can't. I just can't. I just can't. I came to
praise His holy name.
lift Jesus higher, so much higher. I just can't. I just can't. I just can't praise the Lord.
For He is
Worthy of all my praise. For he is worthy of all my. For he is worthy of all my praise. For he is worthy of all my praise. Never will a rock cry out. He's worthy.
of all my praise. Never will a rock cry out in my praise. He's worthy of all my praise. Never will a rock cry out in my praise.
He's worthy.
He's worthy of all my praise. Never will a rock cry out in my praise.
He's worthy.
He's worthy of all my praise.
I just can't. I just can't. I just can't. I came to lift Jesus higher, so much higher. I just can't. I just can't. I just can't. Worthy of all my praise. For he is worthy of all my praise. For he is worthy of all my praise. For he is worthy of all my. Never will a rock cry out. He's worthy. Never will. He's worthy. Never will. He's worthy. Never. Never. No, never. Say that again. Never. No, never. 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 He's worthy. I just can't. I just can't do prayer.
'cause he's worthy of all my praise. Never will a rock cry out in my place, 'cause he's worthy of all my praise. I can't even hear y'all this morning. Isn't he worthy of your praise today? Did he wake you up this morning? Did he give you the activities of your limbs? Did he put breath in your body? Isn't he a good God? Isn't he a magnificent God? Isn't he an awesome God? Because he is so worthy. Worthy. Y'all better not sit down on y'all's blessings today, because God is in the house. He is so worthy to be praised. Never will a rock cry out in my place, because he is so worthy to be praised. Hallelujah. 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 Which is the highest praise. Thank you, God. Y'all done got me all excited today. I was a little tired coming in here, but God is good all the time, and all the time God is good to me. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Just give God a hand. Clap of praise today, because he is so worthy to be praised. He is so worthy to be praised. Ooh, some people can't even clap their hands this morning. Some people can't even stomp their feet this morning. Can't nobody raise their hands this morning, but if you have the activities of your limbs, you should be giving God all the praise today. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. It is altar call time. This is a time when you want to leave all your burdens right here. Amen. And don't go back the same. Don't go back to your seat the same. Amen. Amen. God is good. Please come if you have anything that you're burdened with. Amen. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Hallelujah. Woo! I like that song. Nobody's going to cry out for me. I'm going to cry out for myself. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. We bow our heads in prayer. Oh, Jesus. Thank you, God. Our Father in heaven, you are Alpha and Omega. You are the beginning and the end. You are all sovereign God. You know all. You are all. Lord, we can't do anything without you. Lord, we thank you. Thank you for this day. We don't take that for granted, God, that you have blessed us. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Everyone that's here, God, we ask that you cover them. Cover us today, God. We need you, God. You hear the petitions that's going up, God. Be it that someone is ailing, God. Someone is looking for you, God. They just want to hear your voice, God. We thank you, God, for being in the midst today. Lord, we thank you for true spirit, God, today. You said that we are the church, God. Now I ask that you open up our hearts, God, to your word, God. Open up our minds, God, to your will and to your way, God. We thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you for your blessings. Thank you for your mercy. Thank you for your grace. Thank you, God. You're such a wonderful God. You're such a wonderful God. You're so amazing. You said that if we need you, girl, God, you would be right here. You said, draw nigh unto you, and you'll draw nigh unto us. You said you would never leave us nor forsake us. And we thank you for that. We feel your presence here in the name of God. We thank you for your son, Jesus. 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 In the name of Jesus. Every knee shall bow. Every tongue shall confess. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you for your son who died so that we can have the rights to the tree of life. We thank you, God. We ask that you look over the sick. We ask that you look over the shut-in. We ask that you look over those who have lost loved ones. Comfort us, God, like only you can. Only you, God. You said call upon your name, and you'll be right there. And we thank you for that. Lord, I ask that you look over Pastor Greer today. Crown him from the top of his head to the sole of his feet. That he will give a rhema word today. That someone may come just to say, what must I do to be saved? Because you're the only one that can save us. And we thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you for your son, Jesus. Jesus. Woo. Jesus. Hallelujah. 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 Praise you. Praise your name. Praise your name. We thank you. Now let everyone leave their burdens right here at the altar. Leave them here. Don't go back to your seats the same. Because you have the healer right here. You have the provider right here. You have the redeemer right here. He's right here. Don't miss the shifter. He's the only one that can shift some things in your life. Shift our atmosphere today. Shift our finances today. Shift our minds today. Shift our hearts today. Shift us, God. We need you. And we thank you. And we praise you. Give you all the glory today. In your son Jesus' name, we pray. Amen. Thank you, God.
Oh, bless his name. Let us prepare our minds and our heart for offerings. The Word of God says, Luke 6:38, it said, give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measures, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, shall man give into your bosom. But with the same measure that you meet with, it shall also be measured to you. So again, let's give in the name of Jesus. Ushers.
Makes no difference what you're going through. You can make it. God's gonna see you through. Hold your head up. Put a smile on your face. This is another test. It won't last always. So get ready for your blessing. Get ready for your miracle. Your blessing. Get ready for your miracle. I know you've been hurting deep down inside. Let me encourage you. It's gonna be alright. Struggles and trials come to make you strong. Keep on believing. You keep holding on. And get ready for your blessing. Get ready for your miracle. Get ready. coming? Do you know that your blessing is coming? Y'all want to sing this with me? God's got a blessing.
God's got a blessing.
Oh, yeah, yeah. God's got a blessing.
God's got a blessing.
Oh, yeah, yeah. God's got a blessing.
God's got a blessing.
Somebody say God's got a blessing.
God's got a blessing.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. God's got a blessing. God's got a blessing. God's got a blessing. With my name on it. God's got a blessing. God's got a blessing. God's got a blessing. With my name on it. 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 With my name on it.
Lord, we lift this offering up to you. Bless everyone that gave. And bless the ones that hit the desire but not the mean. But they too will one day bless their finance to give into this offering, that it be used for the building of your kingdom. These things I ask in your son Jesus' name. And let the church say amen.
Amen.
Good morning, True Spirit. Good morning. This is a day that the Lord has made. Yes. We should rejoice. Yes. This is our period of our service for which we acknowledge our guests. If you are a guest of True Spirit today, would you please stand? Give us your name and something about yourselves. Amen.
Hi, my name is Petula. Oh, thank you. I really need a mic. Hi, my name is Petula. I'm from Dallas, visiting my cousin Kay. Yay.
Chantel, also visiting cousin, living in Arizona from Dallas.
My name is Ariel, also visiting from Dallas.
My name is Gloria McCullough. I'm the cousin of Kay, pastor, minister, Reverend. But I thank the Lord for being here today. I'm really enjoying our service. So, Yolanda, I'm sorry. We grew up knowing Kay, so Yolanda is our cousin, and so I'm really enjoying service this morning, and I hope to visit again the next time we come there, Denver, and Colorado Springs, a suburb. But again, thank you for inviting us and welcoming us to your church. Thank you.
I'm Natila. I got invited by Brother Blackwell, and I'm just here to visit. Amen.
Hi, I'm Dr. Gary Haynes from the Nazarene Bible College, and my wife Marty, and we met Brother Shelton a couple weeks ago. He came to our house and helped us out and told us what a great church this is, and he was absolutely right. We are so glad to be with you today.
On behalf of True Spirit Baptist Church and our pastor, Pastor Anthony L. Greer, and our First Lady, Jennifer Greer, we just want to extend to you a hearty welcome. We just thank you for choosing us, and to my family, thank you for visiting me today. We just want to bless you and just hope that the service is a blessing to you. Thank you, and please come back. Amen. We do have a saying here.
I love you,
we love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. We do have a couple of announcements before the overhead.
Praise the Lord, True Spirit. Praise the Lord, True Spirit. How are we doing? Well, I am up here again to let you guys know that the month of October is our Pastor Appreciation Month. And we want to let our pastor know, the under shepherd of True Spirit, that we love him. Is that right, True Spirit? Do we love our pastor, True Spirit? Can we stand up and give the man of God that we love our pastor? Because God is good all the time, and all the time as God is good. Well, we wanted to do from the Blackwells and the Sandovals to show our pastor that we appreciate you and we love you, and there is nothing that you can do about it. Pastor, if you could come down real quick. And we also want to give honor due where honor is due on the First Lady too. And she could come down. So on behalf of the Blackwells and the Sandovals, we just wanted to show you how much we love him. And our First Lady of this house, Sister Greer. So again, it's our national for the month of October. We only got 2 more weeks. We just want to bless the man of God, whether it's a gift card or just an edible arrangement, just let our pastor know that we appreciate him, that we love him. God bless you.
Good morning, True Spirit. Good morning. I said good morning, True Spirit.
We have many reasons to be excited today. 1, God woke us up this morning. I said God woke us up this morning. Another reason is, in November, it is our pastor's first anniversary here at True Spirit Baptist Church. Let's give him a hand.
That's right, everybody. On Sunday, November 17th, we're going to be celebrating Pastor Greer's first anniversary here at True Spirit Baptist Church. We are going to be having our guest pastor. His name is Dr. Jarvis Hansen of the New Nazareth Baptist Church from Chicago, Illinois. And our theme is Driven to Feed His Sheep with Honor, Jeremiah 3:15. And our colors are going to be black and gold. And we are asking everyone to donate a love donation of either $100 or whatever you can go ahead and give to help celebrate our family in the Church of Christ. Give what you can. And that's something that we like to go ahead and have. So please join us on Sunday, November 17th at our 11 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. services.
We hope to see you there.
Good morning, True Spirit. Real quick before we start the announcements, I just wanted to make a quick announcement. So obviously we're going to go over a little bit of what happened at the Fall Festival yesterday. I just wanted to come up just because on the thank yous part, there was some audio issues there. So I just wanted to personally come up on behalf of the youth and thank you all for coming out and helping us do this fall festival. Obviously, you'll see in the video that it was a lot of fun. We thank Walmart, we thank the different vendors that came out, and we just want to, do this again next year, but bigger. So, amen.
Regarding the pastor's anniversary and the love offering, in your bulletins you'll see that checks or love offering envelopes, 25th anniversary. That's an incorrect, that's a misprint. All love offerings that you give, please make your checks. Those would be given to Pastor Anthony Greer. Thank you.
Good morning, True Spirit. And as you know, yesterday we celebrated our Fall Festival and Chili Cook-Off. As promised, here are your winners for the Chili Cook-Off. In third place, we have
Diana Price.
Woo!
Yay!
And in second place,
Whitney Pitts.
Yeah! And our grand prize winner is Miss Anna Jones! Congratulations! Now, enjoy this look back at the Fall Festival.
Oh yeah. No matter what you're going through, there is nothing that God can't do. You just wait and you will see. God can do anything. Yeah, yeah. Say yes, He can. He can. I know He can. He can. Ooh, yes, He can. He can. Oh, no matter what, yeah. No matter what you're going through, there is nothing that God can't do. Nothing but God cannot do. Just wait, and you will see. You'll see. God can do it. Oh, no matter what, no matter what, no matter what it looks like. Oh, your steps are already yours. Yeah, yeah. And it won't be long. God can do anything. Say yes, He can. He can. Hey, say yes, He can. Yes, He can. And if you believe, say yes, He can. He can. Lift your hands and receive it. Say yes, He can. Yes, He can. Now this is the part where we get to decree some blessings over our lives. Here we go. Blessings are on the way. Blessings are on the way. Miracles are on the way. Miracles are on the way. Healing is on the way. Healing is on the way. Favor is on the way. Watch God work it out. Watch God work it out. Watch God work it out. Work it out. He's gonna work it out. Say. Watch God work it out. Watch God work it out. Watch God work it out. Watch
Hello, True Spirit family. I'm Sister Libra Dent. And I'm Sister Sandoval. And we would like to thank each and every one for coming out to help make our 3rd annual Chili Cook-Off and Fall Festival a utter success. We couldn't have done it without you.
We would like to, first of all, thank everyone for coming out and volunteering. We would especially like to thank Walmart for donating all the pumpkins here to give out to the children. We would like to thank the hay masters for giving us the hay for the hay ride. We also would like to thank all of our vendors that came out and made this successful. All of our treaters that donated their cars to come out. We also would like to thank Minister Greer for having a storytime bus with our own True Spirit bus. We'd like to thank Pastor Greer for spearing up the cooking. We would like to thank Keisha Blackwell for helping us from beginning to the end. She's always under the table, but yet we need to bring her out and say thank you. And the guy that's holding the camera, we'd like to tell him thank you. Thank you, William, so much. We love you. Anything we ask you for, you're always there. Always. You may not have a smile all the time, but you're always there. And we want to say thank you. And lastly, we would like to just thank just our True Spirit family for coming out and volunteering, making this successful. We have done a tally, and our tally came out with over 250 people that came out, in and out. So it was a blessing. The weather was great, and we just want to say thank you. And lastly,
God loves you.
We love you.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
Good morning, True Spirit. Welcome to the 3rd Sunday in October. Today is October 20th, and my name is Jamie. Let's get started with this week's announcements. Now, it's been getting colder outside, and snow has even been spotted in some areas. But don't let that stop you from getting your worship going, though. You can watch services live and on demand on our channel, TSBC Media, on YouTube. Now, Sundays are always best when they start with our Sunday school to learn more about God's Word. Classes begin at 9:30 a.m. every Sunday. And if you recently joined True Spirit, we have a class just for you. And it occurs every Sunday in the fellowship hall at the same time. Then at 11 a.m. you can stick around for our Sunday worship service. Now next Sunday we will be having our annual choir day. For more on this event, here is our Minister of Music, Mr. Earl Schaefer.
Hey everybody, this is Earl Schaefer. I'm your Minister of Music here at True Spirit Baptist Church, and I am super excited to invite you to our annual choir day. It's going down Sunday, October 27th, 2019. We're going to have some dinner. We're going to have choirs from all over the city come out. So I want you to tell Lottie, Dottie, and everybody, get your face in the place so we can have some praise and have some worship. We're going to have a high time in the Lord. We want everybody to come out. It's free and open to the public. Now back to you.
Thank you. Now November is going to be a special time around True Spirit because it's our pastor's 1st anniversary. This event is set to be held on Sunday, November 17th. And the theme for this year is Driven to Feed His Sheep with Honor, coming from Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 15. The guest pastor for this event will be Pastor Dr. Jarvis Hansen from the New Nazareth Baptist Church in Chicago, Illinois. Now let's look at your week ahead. Have you been interested in expressing your love for God through dance? If so, you'd be perfect for one of our dance teams. Our Rock of Ages meet on Monday starting at 6:30 p.m. and then Touched by the Spirit dancers meet Saturday starting at 11:30 a.m. right here in the sanctuary. Now Tuesdays are a great time to expand the teachings from Sunday school and Sunday worship service. You are invited to come out to our daytime Bible study starting at 11:30 a.m. or our nighttime Bible study starting at 7 p.m. We have room just for you. Are you someone that enjoys singing but haven't known where you can use that talent? I've got the answer, and it is one of our various choirs. Choir rehearsal is held Wednesdays beginning at 7 p.m., and this week's rehearsal is for our True Men of Valor. Additionally, on this Saturday, we will have our mass choir rehearsal starting at 10 a.m. Now this Thursday, we will be having our church business meeting starting at 6:30 p.m. Then on Friday, we will help serve the community with our food pantry from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we are always looking for more donations or volunteers. Then finally, on Saturdays, starting at 8 a.m., we will hold our ancestry prayer right here in the sanctuary. Now that does it for our upcoming events. Keep up with what's going on with us by searching and liking us on Facebook at True Spirit Baptist Church. And share us with your friends. Now let's fellowship with each other for a few minutes and remember, God loves you, I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it, even if you try. Have a blessed week!
Jesus. We got that. Jesus, crazy how you love me even when I don't love you like I should. You still love me, Father. You can feel me turning and confess that. I like that. Good. Look at your boy. I'm not all I'm supposed to be. Ain't finished. I'm gonna get it right and you get it overnight. So while you're waiting, please wait patiently. I said, it's so sweet to know that you're always in love with me. I might get what's better, but no one can play me better than you. You know you always win, don't you? Hey, when I had nothing, had the struggle, it was up to no good. Hey, the reason I'm still breathing is 'cause I got him. I got that. Jesus, crazy how you love me even when I don't love you like I should. Hey, what you need? I love this part right here. Yeah. When I think about your name, I go. Yeah. How you took away my pain, I go. Every night at the club, ain't no wife at the club. Now Jesus, he be showing me love. They say I wasn't gonna make it, Kurt. You know how that sounds. So it's only by His grace I can't say looking at now. If you love this joint right here, I want you to call your radio station in the morning, and I want you to tell them.
Hey, Mr. DJ. Can you play my favorite song? Will you play my favorite song? Oh. Hey, Mr. DJ.
Hey, Mr. DJ. I wanna hear a song about Jesus. Come on. I heard my mama crying. Yes. I gotta let her know He's gonna wipe her tears away. You are listening to the sounds of a brother who should be dead right now, but I'm so glad God didn't give up on me. Ain't you glad He didn't give up on you? What's His name? When I had nothing, had the struggle, and was up to no good. I had that. The reason you still breathing is 'cause we got that. You need that. Y'all crazy how you love me even when I don't love you like I should.
You know what I'm saying? Tell them what they need, Kurt. They need who?
I came from nothing, y'all. By God's grace. Hallelujah. All you need is let's get it. Young DeChandra.
Jesus Christ. You heard
my boy son. This is what it is, y'all.
I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord. Come on, as you make it back to your seats, let's celebrate Jesus. Let's celebrate Jesus Christ. If He's been good to you, come on, let's give Him a corporate praise. Do me a favor, just look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, I wasn't supposed to look this good, but God had His hand on me. Amen, amen, amen. You may be seated, amen. Amen. Grateful to be here today. Some of y'all might have saw me. I didn't stay down to hug because I was in tears, so I had to come up and gather myself. But I thank God for you all, those that do what you do. Pray for me. Words of encouragement. I appreciate you for that. Most importantly, I thank you for your prayers, because it's not often that the membership will pray for the pastoralship. Amen. Or you don't hear much about it, but we need prayer too. Amen. But I always remember what Scripture says. Sometimes we have to encourage ourselves. So therefore, I always pray, God, you touch them in when they do, I'm grateful for what they do. Amen. Amen. Give yourselves a hand again this morning. I have two dedication certificates to give. One for Alicia Espinoza. Is she here today? She's not here. One for little Maya Pitts. Amen. We're grateful for that. Amen. Amen. We're also grateful that God is doing some great things here at True Spirit. Amen. Amen. I want to say again to all those that came out on yesterday, we had an awesome time. Amen. Amen. It was such a great time. I'm still in pain from jump roping. But we had a good time. And you know what? It wouldn't have taken place without you all being there and doing your part. So I want to commend you all for those that came. Amen. Those that done their part, that helped. Even if you ate all the chili, we thankful for you. And I thank God for Reverend Jones, who helped me man the barbecue grill. We had a few forest fires, but we didn't burn no meat. Amen. We didn't burn no meat. Amen. Amen. We're just grateful for everyone that came out. Continue to pray for our churches. We continue to do things to strengthen this community, to strengthen this church. Because if we're a church and we can't strengthen the community, then most of our work is in vain. Amen. And I say most because we also have to get out and hit the highways and the byways and compel them. Amen. Amen. I'm excited to announce that I was just appointed as the president of the Young Pastors and Preachers Division of the State of Colorado Springs, Wyoming Convention. Amen. 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 Pastor Hendricks called me and he put me in that spot. Also, we're excited to know that our own First Lady is the president of the Pastors' Wives in the state convention. Amen. Amen. So we will be working diligently with our state convention here in Colorado and Wyoming area, and we're looking for our church to be a part of this learning experience. Amen. Nehemiah 4 says, my people perish because of the lack of knowledge. So we want to do all we can to educate and empower God's people to have kingdom minds so they can become kingdom builders. Amen. You all look so good in your jerseys on Jersey Sunday. Amen. Amen. I was telling my 49er comrades, we got a lot of fighting to do. You know, we got these Cowboy fans in here. And all these Bronco fans in here. And these Philadelphia Eagles, all these Detroit Lions, these Redskins, Kansas City Chiefs, Baltimore Ravens, Carolina Panthers, and them good old Saints. We see them Saints. We see the Saints. We got some Seahawks in here. Hey, man, if you got on a jersey, let's just stand up real quick. If you got on a jersey. Mama Rita, you got on a Cowboy shirt. Oh, God. Yeah, oh, she said, oh, she got a name on the back of it. Oh, good God Almighty. Mama Taylor, you done turned on me. You got the Broncos on. Oh, boy. Amen. The Steelers in the house. Amen. The KC Chiefs. Amen. All right, so all the sports you have on, we just grateful for that. Listen, I'm one that like to keep energy flowing in this church. So charge it to me. You hear me? Not my head, not my heart, but charge it to me. So every third Sunday will be our Jersey Sunday. Amen. While football is still going, we're going to have Jersey Sunday every third Sunday. Amen. I know some people are saying, well, you know, you're not supposed to do that in the church. Show me in the Bible. Show me in the Bible. And I'll support your argument. But the Bible did tell us that if we come together on one accord, then he will be in the midst. And I'm finding out more and more as I go to various churches in Colorado, this is a sports state. Football sports state. And so I'm learning like this. Why go against the grain when you can make goals and field goals by working with it? Y'all will catch that tonight. Y'all will catch that. So that's something we can all play a part in. Amen. So on third Sunday, just wear your jersey. Whatever sports team you want to wear, you wear it. And we go from there. I want to say thank you to the Jacksons, and they know what I mean. Thank you to the Jacksons for something special as well. Amen. So I want to thank them as well. All right. So Tuesday at 5:30, the Pastoral Anniversary Committee will be having a meeting. She forgot to put it in the bulletin. So at 5:30, if you're part of the Pastoral Anniversary Committee, please be here Tuesday at 5:30. Also, I know the Pastor's Aid Committee has something they'll be doing in the lobby. You can see them in the lobby. They have something they want to show you as a part of their fundraiser. Also, I got a lot of alsos today. Those that have supported our youth in any type of fundraiser that, you know, many of our children are linked to some things at their school. We have some of them out in the lobby today. I know Sister Whitney is one. Please see them because they have some information they need to share with you. So as they say, if you owe, it's time to pay up. And if not, then you see her and she'll get you the information. But please see them in the lobby as well. Amen? Amen. We want to continue to invite you to our midweek fuel where we're talking about the Revelation of John. And we're coming from a book written by William Barclay. And we've been talking about apocalyptic and apocalypsis. But we've talked about so far the character that a servant should have. And we found that in the sevenfold spirits. And we want you to come out on Tuesday at 11:30 and 7 o'clock to be a part of our Bible study. We're learning some things that probably we've overlooked. That we as servants, we must learn to maintain wisdom. And we must also have the fear of God in us. Yeah. It's when we have the fear of God in us is when we respect the commands and the things that he gives us. And most importantly, when we have the fear of God in us, then we will find ourselves searching Scripture to be more subjected to Scripture. So then we'll be more submissive to leadership. Now, you may say, well, leadership is merely a man. But the Bible says he'll give you pastors after his own heart. Yeah. Those that will teach you the doctrine and feed you the word. Then the Bible also says to the ones that preach the doctrine, you should give them their worthy of double honor. But most importantly, it says, obey those who have rule over you. So when you are subjected to Scripture, then you'll follow leadership. Now, in the process of following leadership, God blesses those that follow his word. You'll see that in Revelation. Blessed to the ones that read this word, hear this word, and even speak this word out. And so we want to be obedient to the word. So we want you to come Tuesday to be a part of our Bible study where we're discussing the Revelation of John. If you don't have the book, we have copies that we'll be giving out, printed copies we've given out to go through so you can get the lesson as we're going through it. But I'm excited about it because I've never seen so many people turn their eyes from the thought of destruction to the thought of praise when we look into Revelations. Because Revelations is not a bad book if you know the Lord. It's when you don't know him is when you fear it. Amen? Because God has some things he wants to reveal to us. And I want to share it with you on Tuesday at 11:30 and 7 o'clock. So we hope that you would come out. Amen? Also, we're asking that you submit your budgets to the finance team by the 31st, not the 32nd. It'll be too late. And not the 1st, the 31st. All ministries, we need you to submit that to our finance team so we can move forward in 2020. I'm excited for what 2020 has in store for True Spirit. Amen. Aren't you glad that God is keeping us? Amen. So we just want to do all we can to continue to be obedient and follow the word of God. Amen. So we ask that you govern yourselves accordingly. I know our choir will be at Fresh Start, I believe. Friendship, this afternoon, celebrating with them. They've been asked to do selections. So all those that can and will go and support the choir today at 3:30 at Friendship Baptist Church. Amen. Continue to pray for our own church as well. Amen. And before I get to this choir, I'm going to do something here. Can you do me a favor? I need you to go get my wallet out of my drawer in my office real quick, expeditiously, please. We have a son in the ministry by the name of Pastor Nelson, and he is the pastor of Living Word Church. And I was talking, my mind was there, my heart was there, and I was asking God for confirmation to how to handle it. When you have a son in the ministry and you're the mother church, when I say mother church, he's birthed out of this church. Every now and then, we should be a church to help our own. Hey, got 3 amens. Amen. Can y'all give me an offering basket? I want to bless Living Word. I don't know what's going on over there. I don't care to ask. But I want to bless Living Word with a love offering to let them know we love our son, Pastor Nelson. Amen. Y'all do love him, right? Amen. Amen. I'm not asking for a whole lot. I'm just asking you to just give something. We want to bless them. We're going to give it to the finance team. They're going to make a check out, and we're going to bless Pastor Nelson. I'm going to start this off with $20. Amen. And all you got to do is just put your hand in the air, and the deacons will come and give an offering. But we want to bless Living Word. And I thank you for your response of obedience. Thank you for those that are giving. Amen. God will bless us for blessing someone else. Amen. Amen. He blesses a cheerful giver. If you write a check, write it out to Living Word. Write it out to Living Word. Amen. I just want to bless him this week. Amen. Let him know we love him. Thank you all so much. Thank you all so much. Even the baby's giving. Ain't that something? That's a good thing. No, that's right, Sister D. Slam dunk. Tell him, hold on. Amen. Did everyone have a chance to give? Let us pray real quick. We'll pray as we. Okay, amen. Thank you. Let us pray. Our God and Father, we thank you again for all that you do, Lord. We thank you for True Spirit. We're acting on obedience, Lord. We just thank you that you allow us to be a blessing to one of our sons in the ministry. And Lord, we just ask that it will be used to uplift Living Word Church, and that you will continue to bless Pastor Nelson and his church and his journey. But Lord, I just thank you for the givers, and thank you for those that even didn't give. But Lord, when we do it again, Lord, that you would just impose on our hearts to give, because you bless us in our obedience. So we thank you right now. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Give yourselves a hand. I thank you so much. Finance team will take that and count it, and they'll write a check to Pastor Nelson. Amen. Let's give this choir a hand as they come. Let's celebrate Jesus as they sing. Amen.
Total adoration
Father, it is preaching time. Songs have been sung, gifts have been given. Now, God, we need a word from on high. We ask you, God, that you would be the giving and gracious God you've always been, and share some crumbs from the Master's table. That we are just a few of your servants here asking to feed us until we want no more. So let me decrease, you increase in me, hide me behind. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be accepted in thy sight. O Lord, I praise you, give you all glory and adoration, because you're my strength and you're my redeemer. And the household of faith said, amen. Come on, if you love the Lord, come on, let's give him a hand clap of praise. Been through the storm and rain, but oh, I made it. I've been through the storm and the rain, but oh, I made it. You don't know what the Lord has done for me. Jesus did his part so that I can make it. I've been through the storm and the rain, but oh, I made it. I've been through the storm and the rain, but oh, I made it. You don't know what the Lord has done for me. If you know Jesus did his part, just lift up your hands and Jesus did his part so that I can make it. I'm going to say this and get to the text. Sometimes I have to cry alone, but oh, you can make it. Sometimes you have to cry alone. Oh, you can make it. You don't know what the Lord has done for me. Yeah. Can I get about 4 people that just jump up and say, Jesus did his part so that I can make it. Let the church say yes. 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 2 Samuel chapter 6. 2 Samuel chapter 6. 2 Samuel chapter 6. If you would jump down to verse 22. If you're able to stand in respect and reverence to the word of God, please stand. 2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 22. If you're there, say amen. If you're still looking, shout out Bible study. We got room for you. And it reads, and I will be even more undignified than this, and will be humble in my own sight. But as for the maidservants of whom you have spoken, by them I will be held in honor. And the word of God is blessed. You may be seated. If I can just borrow your sports attention to help me preach on the subject, undignified praise. Undignified praise. We all would agree that there are many things that will draw our attention or to get us to act foolish. There are some things in life that you do not have to partake of in a cup or in some bottle that will cause us to act foolish. Issues in life will cause us to act foolish. Talking about someone's mother or father, be it alive or deceased, will cause us to act foolish. Stepping on the wrong person's toes at the wrong time will cause us to act foolish. Playing with somebody's money, making a promise that it'll be on next week's check, will cause us to act foolish. But when it comes to serving God, no one should feel like they're being foolish when they give God praise. In fact, there should be no one that should be ashamed to act foolish for God after all he's done for you. In fact, if you just think of one thing he's done for you just in the last 10 seconds, it should make you act foolish. But most importantly, if you can just think about what he's done for you in your life lately, it can cause you to act foolish. And if you just really want to get foolish, you can think about how many times the devil tried to take your life, but yet God has blessed you to still be alive. That should make some people want to act foolish. But we've come to a point now in this walk that we have gotten so foolish that we don't know when to act foolish. Because sometimes we have to be pumped and primed in order to give a God that is a primer and a pumper all the praise when it's time to give him praise. Because last I checked, many of us wasn't supposed to be here. But yet, because you're not feeling good, this ain't your Sunday to praise God. And if the record was to be served today and someone was to really give record to what's going on in your life, there have been many things that have happened to you this week that you knew about 10 years ago you would have gave up and thrown in the towel. But if I can get about 4 people to lift up your hands, and I'll be 5 to say, I'm so glad to act foolish for Jesus. Because I wasn't supposed to look this good after all the stress and drama that I've been through this week. I wasn't supposed to even walk this well even after the enemy tried to cripple me a long time ago. In fact, I can act foolish because I wasn't supposed to have food on my table, clothes on my back, activities of my limbs, in my sound mind, but just because he is my God, I'm going to give you something good to talk about. I'm going to act foolish in the house of God. Why? Because this is the blessed place to show the enemy you thought you had me, but God had another plan. Do I got any foolish worshipers in the house that can just testify and say, I got an undignified type praise, one that can't nobody understand but me and Jesus? Y'all ain't saying nothing. You're looking at me. But somebody ought to say, I'm glad that I can lift up my hands in the sanctuary. I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of God. Why? Because he's been too good to me to sit down and act like I don't know him. Praising God. Granny and them used to say, while the blood is running warm in your vein, you ought to praise him while you still can. And so here it is. We arrive in this text in 2 Samuel. I preached 6 and 5 before, and I kept looking at this, and the Lord showed me something. He said, tell them they got to have an undignified praise. And so here we look at David, and if you look at chapter 6, you have to make sure you're viewing chapter 5. And in chapter 5, you'll see all while in chapter 5, David was talking to God, but David was giving access. He was given access to do some things. He was anointed as the king. And if you look through verses 6 through 9 of chapter 5, David then built a city around the area where people didn't want him to be. And you know, sometimes you have to take it upon yourself to be grateful that you are in places that people don't want you to be. You just missed that shout. Many of us can testify that you got a job that some people just don't want you to be in. Some of us can testify you got positions on your job that many folks say you don't deserve to have it. But do I got anybody that's glad about where God positioned you? In fact, you can laugh at me, talk about me, call me everything but a child of God. God made a way out of no way. And here it is. David had access. Bible says he told his people when he was rejected, they said the blind will repel you. They won't allow you to come. David said, well, I tell you what, if anybody that's on my team would just go up through the pipes and destroy those that are blind and let them know who I am, he said, then you will be the chief. But the Bible declares that he built the city around them. And some of us should shout because guess what? You've been able to walk around all your enemies. And you've been able to tell your enemies you thought I wasn't supposed to have it, but God had bigger plans. Y'all just missed that shout cue. So as David had access in chapter 5, he not only had that access, but David was granted favor. If you look at chapter 5, verses 17 through 20, he was granted favor. The Bible says he went and the Philistines were about to attack him. And so then now watch this. David asked God, can I go and you deliver the Philistines to me? And the Bible records the Lord told David, you go to the fight and undoubtedly I will give him or give them to you. And he declared that place a place of Baal Perazim, meaning that was a place where the God broke me through. Y'all don't know when to shout. That should let somebody know that you might be coming up or have been up on some times that God has broke you through some barriers that people tried to block you from receiving what's yours. I mean, has there ever been a time in your life where it felt like you just couldn't win for losing? But God gave you that extra strength and he pushed you right through it. I wish I had some cancer survivors that was ready to give up when the doctor said you had 6 weeks to live. And God gave you the strength, and now you can say, I am a living testimony. I wish I had some diabetes folk that could say my sugar was sky high. I didn't have to go to the doctor, but God regulated my sugar, high blood pressure. He regulated I was in my car, but it was his grace and mercy that kept the driver from hitting my car and me. I just thank God for pushing me through. He said he gave us some breakthrough through his enemies, and some of y'all should be shouting because God pulled you through some of the presence of your enemies. So, and as he looked in chapter 5, watch this. He was not just granted favor once, but he was granted favor twice. The Bible says he went, God gave him the Philistines, and then again, the Philistines, watch this, went ahead to set up a booby trap. And God still gave him favor. That's another point. Here it is. He gave him favor amongst his enemies before he even got to the fight. The Bible said he told him, now I don't want you to run hastily, but I just want you to listen. So then when you hear a certain sound, then I want you to move. The Bible said he got to the tree. He heard the sound from on high, not down low. And the sound let him know that he had got the victory. I wish I had some people that could say, I'm so glad that God already fought the victory before I even went through it. In fact, whatever you worried about tomorrow, if you just listen to the voice of God, you already got the victory. You got a doctor's appointment, walk in with your head up high. You got a job they're talking about laying you off, walk in with praise on your lips and thanksgiving in your heart, because when God said it, it shall be done. And here it is. As he spoke to David and gave him that double granted of favor, he shows me that, watch this, sometime you'll be challenged with the same thing but in a different location. Y'all just missed that. Can you help me get to first down? Here it is. Some people ought to be grateful that the first challenge didn't take you out, but it was because God wanted to show you the second time around just how wonderful and miraculous he really is. I know you ain't always been able to walk with money in your pocket, but name a time he ever made you want for anything. He said, I never seen the righteous seed begging for bread. And watch this. You got to know when to shout, because there's times where God will mess with you on Monday and mess with you again on Wednesday. But thank God for grace and mercy, because had it not been for grace and mercy, I wouldn't have made it to Wednesday. But how many know when you got the covering of Jesus all over your body, ain't nothing you can't walk into and walk with victory? The problems on your job, walk with praise. Problems in your home, walk with praise. Because when God anoints you, there's nothing the enemy can do. So as I get to the text, I had to go 5, and then, Professor, I had to go 6. Because before I can get to 22, I had to realize, why was David saying we got to have an undignified praise? Because in chapter 6, God, watch this, God gets mad and David gets mad. He had the ark, he going, and the ark fell, and Uzziah touched the ark and he died. Scripture says the Lord destroyed him instantly. David got mad. And here it is. Oftentimes you can't praise because you're mad at God. Let me lay that in your lap. Some things he has taken out of your life so you can give him praise. But because you want to keep touching the tainted, the troubled, and trying some situation, you get mad at God. I wish I had some folk that could say, I should have left him a long time ago. But I kept putting, but listen. Let me get to this. Here it is. David got mad. God got mad. And then David said, why would God trust me with this? Watch this. The Bible says he got so scared that he didn't take the ark into the city, but he took it to somebody else's house. And the text says that while it was in the house for 3 months, the house was blessed. That's a shout right there. You ought to be glad you're in the house, because everybody in your presence could be blessed because you're there. Anybody ever walked in the presence of your enemies and the whole atmosphere changed? But that's because God had a purpose for you to be there. And while you were there, he was not just going to bless them, but he was going to bless you in the presence of them. I'll prepare before the presence of my enemy that table where we can eat and serve God. Now watch this. He said the houses was blessed. And then watch this. The text says David danced like crazy before the Lord. Now many don't understand why he was dancing. But if you went into Psalms, he was dancing because the Lord turned his mourning, not M-O-R-N, but M-O-U-R-N-I-N-G, into praise. And that meant that he turned some situations that would have kept the normal man down. He turned it over for his good. I wish I had some Joseph folk that know that sometime you be in the presence of some folk that mean you know earthly good. But I don't even know what the enemy meant for evil. God, I'm shouting and you ain't shouting with me. What the enemy meant for evil, God meant it for good. And so here it is. He recognized that he turned it into more. But then watch this. The text even says he realized that his wife despised him. I'm still in 6 and ain't got to 22 because you need to see why he got an undignified praise. It's something when your family can't celebrate. It's something when it seems like the more you get ahead, your family want to keep you down. Some of y'all looking at me like you ain't never done that before. And it's something when you are connected to someone, not just through holy matrimony, but through the same bloodlines that always seem to play down on all of your accomplishments. I got a new car. Oh, I had a little one like that a long time ago. I got a new house where that's a 1-bedroom. I got a 3. I got some new shoes. Well, I bought 10 pair of those 10 years ago. I got a new job. Girl, I've been working mine for 25 years. It's something when people hate on you that's connected to you. So here it was. The Bible says that his wife looked in on him and despised him. Watch this. It's amazing how saints look in on other saints' praise, but yet say they serve the same God. If you serve God, I serve God, you ain't got time to look in my window. In fact, you ain't even got time to knock on my door, because the Bible says, let everything that has breath praise ye the Lord. So then if I'm praising him and you praise him, why am I looking at you when I'm praising God? Because I got a reason to shout, because had it not been for the Lord on my side, where would I be looking? Somebody said, stop looking in my window. Yeah, truth be told, we got less shouters and more peeping toms in the church. People always want to peep in on your praise and tell you your praise don't take all that. But some people need to know that because you're looking in, that's what validates my praise. You said I wasn't supposed to have it, but God said, here is yours. You said I wasn't supposed to be here, but God said, keep following me, and I'm going to lead you to places you can never imagine. Eyes have not seen, nor ears have heard, nor entered into the heart of man the glory that God has. said he realizes his wife despised him. Now I want y'all to hold on to his wife. Just hold her. Don't hold her too tight. I want you to hold on to Saul's wife, because he said, now let me explain to you when you have an undignified praise. That's his wife was Michal. When you have an undignified praise, the first thing in verse 22 it wants you to know is that you have an attitude. In the text it says, and I will be even more undignified than this. Some Bibles say vile, meaning that I'm going to be extremely unpleasant around you. Watch this. When trouble comes, the enemy wants you to be in an unpleasant position. If you're sick, ever felt uncomfortable? But those that know the Lord and have been through something, when you may have walked into the presence of those that diagnosed you, but you got a smile on your face. Not only is the doctor amazed, but the enemy is uncomfortable. Why? Because the enemy tried to destroy you, but yet you still find reason to walk with a smile on your face. And here it is. Your attitude, watch this, will affect how high you can go in God. And truth be told, the reason why churches are not busting out of the seams, the walls are not falling, because there are too many people with the wrong attitude. Yeah, the wrong attitude. You think because you have worked so many years and got a nice 401k, 403b, a good pension, and some leftovers from death, you have arrived. But here it is. He says, you got to have an attitude, because here it is. Once you have been through what David been through, you're not focused on what you have obtained. You're focused on how you made it through the struggle. I wish I had some bologna and hog head cheese eaters that can say, I know what it feels like to go through some stuff, but I thank God that I ain't got to eat it no more. I can eat some ham. I can eat some turkey. I can go get a steak, because while I was struggling, I found praise in my heart and said, Lord, I thank you for the Spam. I thank you for the sardines. I thank you for the salami sandwiches, mayonnaise sandwich, sugar sandwich, syrup sandwich, ketchup sandwich, tang and watered down milk. And now, God, I can walk with purpose, because you said I am of the chosen childhood priesthood. That means anything I ask, it shall be given unto me. Look at somebody and say, I'm glad I got an attitude. I'm glad I got an attitude. And here it is. He said the attitude, it entails some resistance. It entails the resistance while in your attitude, because watch this. When you're not submissive, you're mad. But if you are subjected, then you have a reason to be happy. Did y'all catch that? When you're not submissive, you're mad. But when you have the right attitude and you're subjected, then you can be happy. Let me help you. Remember I told you to hold on to Saul's wife? Hold on to her. The reason being is because Saul's wife was linked, his daughter was linked to Saul, which indicates just because we married don't mean my spirit is right. Okay, y'all just missed that. She was married to David, but she had a Saul spirit, which means she didn't want to see David get no further than she could. Hold on to her. Hold on to her. But just look at your neighbor and say, I'm so glad the Lord let me have enemies, because I can make my enemies my footstools. Though your spirit ain't right, I'm glad you're looking in in on me because the more you look at me, God's taking me higher. Because I'm not going to allow you to not let me be subjected or have submission to God. Because when he told me in his word that he'll make my enemies my footstools, that means if I'm submissive and subjected to him. Why? Because if you draw nigh unto him, he'll draw nigh unto you. So, because here it is. Here it is. The problem has happened in the church because we are not submissive to God. We don't have the right attitude. We can't talk to Satan. So now Satan has set up a whole house inside of your house. And the reason why I talk to you like that is because some people don't realize Satan is not nice. And here it is. The Bible says in James 4, if you submit yourself unto God, watch this, then watch this, you can resist the devil and he can flee. And you're wondering why your house is all in chaos? It's because you're not submissive to God. You're submissive to your money, your job, and that joker that don't want to go to church. But how many know that when you are submissive unto God, not only being submissive, you become humble. And it's while in my humility, God will exalt me in due season. Some people crying about the rain. You ought to be happy there's rain. Because now the seed that has been planted in your life got some water. And some people are complaining about hotness because it's drying up everything. Where there's been some things that's been planted in your life that need to be dried up. And some people are upset about it being cold. That's to keep the enemy away. When it's cold, no germs can attach itself to you. But how many know when it's warm outside, then now you can shout? Because guess what? Even though the sweat is on my brow, I won't complain. Because I know soon and very soon, I'm going to meet the King. Because he told me when I know beyond the shadow of a doubt, there's no secret what God can do, what he done for others. There's a problem, but not only is it in the attitude, but the second thing is the anointing is in your undignified praise. He said, and will be humble in my own sight. That's what the Bible says. The anointing, watch this, your anointing would not allow you to be horrible. Okay, let me go more in layman terms. Your anointing will not allow you to be ugly. Your anointing will not allow you to be horrible. It will not allow you to be ugly. And your anointing will not allow you to be sedity. Nor will it allow you to be sanctimonious. Nor will it allow you to be conceited. Nor will it allow you to be stiff-necked. Nor will it allow you to be stubborn. Nor will it allow you to be evil. Nor will it allow you to be a backbiter. Nor will it allow you to be double-tongued. Nor would it allow you to be a backstabber. Nor would it allow you to be a liar. Nor would it allow you to be a stumbling block. Because how many know when you got the anointing will redirect you and correct you at the same time. I wish I had somebody that could say, I've been redirected because my anointing. There were many people I want to make fall. But I knew he said, if you become a stumbling block, that's abomination upon you. But how many know when you stumble, I'm going to pick you up because that's how humble I am. All righteous folk have fallen. But how many know we're just a saint that's a sinner that has fallen, but we got to get back up. So then Peter says in 5 and 6, 1 Peter says, humble yourself under the mighty hand of God, and he will exalt you in due season. And watch this. His anointing. Remember I told you to hold on to his wife, right? His anointing covered him even when he was not loved. Y'all don't get it. His anointing covered him even when he was not loved. Here it is. God will keep you. I know we got guests. Just, y'all bear with me. Your anointing will keep you from acting foolish when you're not loved. Can I say it like I really want to say it? Your anointing will keep you from putting your hands on some folk. And here it is. Your anointing will stop you from being a Peter. Hey, Will, they ain't hearing me today. Your anointing will keep you from cutting somebody's ear off. But his anointing covered him when he was not loved. Somebody don't know what it feels like not to be loved. Everybody here must be loved. Because to tell me my anointing keep me when I'm not loved will make me feel some kind of way. But if you know where your anointing came from, then you would be excited about being covered even though you wasn't loved. Talk to me, John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever will shall not perish but have everlasting life. Talk to me again, David. He says, when the wicked came upon me to devour my flesh, my enemies and foes, they stumbled and they fell. You ought to be glad that God had an anointing on you, because the ones that said they love you was the very ones trying to destroy you. And just because God had an anointing on your life, he'll keep you covered. I wish I had some more Joseph folk that had some family that want to put him down in the pits and lie about his death. But how many know when God got an anointing on you, you'll be able to bless those that despitefully misuse you? Look at somebody and say, I'm blessed. I know I'm blessed. Yeah. And so not only, watch this, is it an attitude, not only is it an attitude, not only is it an act of him having some type of behavior or his anointing, but let me tell you something. His arrogance is in his undignified praise. There's a difference. The text says, but as for the maidservants of whom you have spoken by, them I will be held in honor. There's an arrogance that people don't often look at as Christians. Because when we hear arrogance, we think of an ignorant arrogance versus a spiritual arrogance. An ignorant arrogance is carnal. You ever been around somebody that just walk with their nose up all the time? Just think that they have arrived because they got 1 cent over $1. They got 1 cent over $1. Think they have arrived because they got a brand new pair of shoes before the first of the month. An ignorant arrogance. Now, and now let me go a little spiritual. There are some ignorant, arrogant, so-called Christians that think because you've been in church for so many years, you don't have to be taught nothing. That's ignorant. Somebody say ignorant. And then there's the arrogant piece to that, because you walk around like you know, but you really don't know. Because if you were smart, you wouldn't walk around ignorant. And here it is. We have become stuck in the ignorant arrogance instead of focusing in the spiritual arrogance. Watch this. When we are focused in the spiritual arrogance, that means we are spiritually arrogant to God. Let me help you out real quick. The ignorant arrogance is in Jeremiah 9. That's when Jeremiah talks about the wise, the mighty, and the rich. that has caused many to stay stuck in the spiritual walk. But the spiritual arrogance will not allow you to join in with just any and everything. It will allow you to join in with other like-minded people. Y'all just missed it. Acts, when all of the saints got together, they were on one accord. The Spirit came. And the Bible says there were many gifts that was exposed, right? That's a spiritual arrogance, that they decided to come together no matter what condition they were in so that God could change some stuff. You just missed that. David, here it was, listen. David, despite of his journey, did not get ignorant arrogance. He kept a spiritual arrogance because why? The Philistines tried to kill me not once but twice. The blind didn't want me into the same place with them. My wife was even acting foolish. And God, you kill Uzziah. My spiritual arrogance allowed me to stay with you, God. So then now I can talk to you in Psalms 34:2. My soul will make a boast in the Lord, and the humble will hear it and rejoice. But the text says, but as for the maidservants of whom you have spoken by them, I will be held in honor. Watch this. Some people don't realize that you've been placed in some areas that you can get honor without bragging on yourself. Watch this. If you're a cancer survivor, just stand to your feet. Stay right there. If you battle with high blood pressure, stand to your feet. If you battle with diabetes, stand to your feet. If you battle with depression, stand to your feet. If you battle with financial problems, stand to your feet. If you battle with people talking about you calling everything but a child of God, stand to your feet. Now, watch this. The Bible says, let the redeemed of the Lord say so. So now you got a spiritual arrogance that you can join in with your brothers and sisters and say, look what the Lord has done. Brought me out of, y'all don't know when to do it. Y'all ain't doing nothing. Brought me out of darkness into the marvelous light. Look what the Lord has done. Spiritual arrogance. Can I say something to y'all? Spiritually, y'all so stale. Y'all so stale because here it is. If I know that God has anointed me and covered me through diabetes, through cancer, depression, financial problems, struggling of being backbitten, talked about everything but my government name, I'm going to celebrate him because he kept me covered when everybody else was trying to destroy me. When the doctors gave up, I still got to praise. Why? Because God said I can do it. So let me get out your way. Why do I have an undignified praise? Because text says that David's wife came to him and she called him out as being foolish. Kind of remind me of Job. When everything Job had was gone. The Bible said Job's wife came running to him and she said, you need to cuss your God and die. Now, why would my own wife tell me to cuss God and die? Why would my own wife tell me that because I'm dancing for Jesus, I'm foolish and I am extremely unpleasant. Why is my praise undignified? Because he's been a bridge over troubled water. Why is my praise undignified? Because he's been my refuge in a very present time of help. Why is my praise undignified? Because God has been my leaning post. Why is my praise undignified? Because God is my battle axe in the time of a storm. Y'all don't hear me this morning. Why is my praise undignified? Because he was food when I was hungry. Why is my praise undignified? He was clothes when I didn't have clothes on my back. Why is my praise undignified? Because he's been better to me than I've been to myself. Why is my praise undignified? Because one Friday he went on the cross called Calvary. They hung him high and they stretched him wide. They tell me he died from the 6th to the 9th hour. Ain't he all right this morning? Why is my praise undignified? Because while he was on the cross, he was thinking about me. Why is my praise undignified? Because he hung there and he didn't come down from the cross. That's enough to have an undignified praise. Why is my praise undignified? Because when he hung there, he never said a mumbling word. Why is my praise undignified? Because while on the cross, he was talking to his daddy. He said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they're doing. Why is my praise undignified? Because he says, verily, verily, Father, why have thou forsaken me? While on the cross, he was taking on my sins. At the point he asked his daddy, why did thou forsake me? He hung there from the 6th to the 9th hour. The sun refused to shine. The moon dripped down in blood. The record record he was buried before lunch, but he was in the grave before dinner. But how many know he got up early Sunday morning just before breakfast? Why is my praise undignified? Because he did it all. He did it all. He did it for me. I got an undignified praise because he didn't have to do it, but he did it. How many glad that he died for your sins? He died for my sins so that the lost can be saved. I got a question I want to ask you. Do you got a praise that you can get foolish about? Your child has been protected. That's an undignified praise. Your money's been funny. Your chain's been strange. But God still has been in the providing business. That's an undignified praise. You was told you weren't fit to live. You were about to die. That's an undignified praise. But how many know when God has blessed you, when you couldn't see a blessing come, that's another undignified praise. I got one question, and I'm going to get to my seat. Ain't he all right? Have you tried him? Do you know he's all right? Slip your hand up and say, I'm so glad that he did it for me. My praise is for real because he did it for me. Do me one more favor. Just turn and look at your neighbor and Tell your neighbor the reason why I'm shouting like I am. Because God didn't give up on me. He didn't let my past affect my future. Do me one more favor. Just slide your hand and grab your neighbor by the hand. Rock him and shake him. Shake him and rock him. And tell him, neighbor, the reason why my praise is undignified. Because I'm a miracle walking in your presence. That should shout you out. That should make you say yeah. Say yeah. Say yeah. Yeah. Undignified praise. Undignified praise. Some of y'all don't know when to get dignant. I wanna let it go. But can I just scream one time? Yeah! When I think of the goodness of Jesus and all he's done for me, my soul shout out, hallelujah! Thank you, Jesus! Say yes! Say yes! Yeah! Ezekiel said, he's a wheel in the middle of a wheel. But when you got spiritual arrogance, how many feel like Jeremiah? He's just like fire. Y'all don't want to have church over here. Fire! Shut up in my bones. When I look back over my life and think about the things that he's already done. High five somebody, say, I got undignified praise. Undignified praise. Come on, let's celebrate Jesus. Maybe at this time you feel like life is not worth living. Maybe you feeling like you've been in the wilderness long enough. And you're looking for a Savior. As we extend this hand of fellowship to you. As we all stand, as we open the doors of this church,